Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
David.
Gagan.
We're back again, part 2, recorded on the same day, but won't be released on the same day, so you'll be hearing this a few days after the other one. But hey, sorry, we have to give you the content during this international break and spread it out. So we are going to pretty much start off from where we left, Dave. We discussed the squad, the players that we think may be leaving, so where that would leave squad gaps. Let's just go over which gaps they were. We don't need a goalkeeper. We don't.
No.
So it's going to be a right back that we think is already missing.
Yes.
Maybe a centre back. I think we talk about it just in case we do sell one. Just in case that happens. A left back, just in case, like we said. Okay, then we need a couple of midfielders. I think.
I think that's fair. I think one can be maybe that attacking midfielder / attacker type to replace Ox. So you could get someone for that type of bridging role. So that's absolutely fine. But yeah, we can definitely look at that. You're on mute, by the way.
Okay, and then we have, forwards-wise, I think we probably need to just have a couple of options there too. Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Wow, okay, so that's quite a few. Let's go straight to the defence then, Dave. Let's talk about the right back. We love talking about a good right back. So, Who are the names you'd think?
So, as pointed out earlier, we do need to obviously ensure that there are, roles filled with players that also fill the quota. And I think that backup right back spot is definitely one that you could look at in that regard. This list is kind of one that I've had for a while. I've got 4 players who could play as a right back, all of whom would be the type of player you're looking to bring in, develop for 2 to 3 years, and then sell on at a sizable profit. So 3 of the list are 21, and 1 of them is 23. The 23-year-old is the one who's not homegrown. He wasn't actually on the list originally when I started putting these together about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I was talking to Carol on Scouted, and Ridley Baku came up. Right back at Wolfsburg. Developed as a midfielder when he was young. Moved to right back, can play right wing, has played in a front 3, both right and left side. So gives you huge versatility. 23 years of age, already a German international. Came through at Mainz, was in the Mainz academy when Klopp was there. Was then developed in the academy more while Thomas Tuchel was there. So he's had good schooling. You know that the clubs were being overseen very, very well at that point. And Mainz are just a club that do things the right way. Moved on to Wolfsburg in 2020. I think they paid 5 or 6 million for him. He's probably 18 to 20 million this summer. But I think with his versatility, his profile, his potential, that's a player you could bring in, have for 2 to 3 years, and then flip at the end of that time for 30, maybe even 35 if he develops the right way. I really like Ridley Baku. I think he's a player worth strong consideration. The others, 2 of the others I've mentioned frequently on committee pods, but both of them now have one thing they didn't have previously. They're both now 21. So they're both now homegrown players. They class as homegrown players for your quota. One is Jed Spence. I thought he was one of Nottingham Forest's standout players against us in the FA Cup. Obviously on loan there from Borough. I think 15 million gets him. And Jayden Bogle, who I've liked since he was at Derby. Just a very good right back, good on the ball, improving defensively. I like the aggression in his game. Again, 21, homegrown, 10 to 12 million probably gets him this summer. And he and Spence, I both think, have the type of potential where 2 to 3 years down the line, you're selling them on for 25 to 30 million because they're right backs. There's not a whole lot of really high-end quality ones. I know people like to make a big deal about how many right backs England have, but Walker's past his best, Trippier's past his best. They're going to be gone. Wan-Bissaka never developed. There isn't that many great young right backs around. England have a monopoly on them. You look at France, you look at Germany, you look at Italy, you look at Spain. They're not producing many high-end right backs. England, for some reason, just are. And I think Spence and Bogle are sort of the next two off that production line. I highlighted James Justin a couple of years ago. I see similar things with both of these in terms of potential development. The third one is homegrown, but is a Dutch underage international currently playing at Bayer Leverkusen. That's Jeremy Frimpong. Again, someone I highlighted on a committee pod when he was at Celtic. He's since moved to Bayer Leverkusen. He's established himself there. He's been very, very good. Now, the only knock I have on him is he's only 5'7". So he is a lot smaller than our traditional type of defender. Baku is 5'9", but he's built really strongly. Spence is 6 foot. Bogle is 5'10", 5'11". They're more along the lines of what we'd normally look at. Whereas Frimpong at 5'7" is quite short, but he's really well schooled, was in the City Academy for 9 years. Explosive player, great carrier of the ball, great dribbler, chance creator. I think he's one worth consideration. So any of those four, I think, would be players that right now I'd be thrilled to hear us linked to it. I'd be absolutely delighted if we were to go and get one of those four and plug them in behind Trent.
We're not linked to anyone though, are we? We don't. Right backs is very rare. We don't actually get linked with anybody, do we?
Don't get linked to many people in general. We don't get linked to many people in general because nothing gets leaked anymore.
True.
Like even someone like Graham, who remains very, very well connected at the club, but used to get everything. Like Graham could tell you everything going on at the club up until probably about 2017. So through the end of Rafa, Hodgson, Kenny, especially during the Rodgers era where everything leaked out, and the early days of Klopp as Klopp tried to find the leaks and plug the leaks, and obviously Ian Ayre was still there and that kind of stuff. But since about 2017, the club has really pulled back, and you see it in a lot of the reporting. Like, you look at the Echo, they don't know anything that's going on. Pierce has no real insight. Now, Melissa Reddy doesn't really cover Liverpool anymore. When she went to the Independent, that she became more of a national writer, but she doesn't get the same level of intel. It's only really Joyce, and it's only really Joyce as something is happening. Dom King gets nothing. Andy Hunter gets very little. Maddock hasn't gotten anything right since 2004.
Exactly. So Joyce, whatever he says, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take anything that he says in terms of on a pod or whatever seriously. It's when those things happen, just before something's about to happen. Those are the ones that you take seriously.
Yeah.
The moment ones, the ones that are just, we've done this, or this is about to happen, or they're, Liverpool talking to this person.
I would say I haven't listened
about buy to sell. Don't listen to that shit. That's nonsense. The Liverpool been saying that shit for ages.
But see, I would say he's just looking at the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And he's also looking at the fact that, look, Liverpool might win everything this year. Liverpool could win 4 trophies. And then there's an argument to be made, and it's a weak argument, but there is some people that will make the argument that, well, we don't need to buy anybody because we've just won everything. Some people will make that argument, including some people who are involved in AI. Yeah, there will be one or two on a pod that will say that, and that's fine.
Yeah, they'll assume, though, that's with the assumptions it's not changing, right?
That's with the assumption no one's leaving.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen.
But it also doesn't factor in regression. Like, it doesn't factor in the fact that if Milner stays, he will be even worse next season. Henderson will be even worse next season. Firmino and Mane will continue to decline. There will be a drop in Thiago at some point because he's 31 soon. Now, his game should age very, very well because he doesn't rely on physicality. But there will be certain players who drop off. And if you look at our squad, outside of Trent, Diaz, Jota, Ibu and Harvey, I don't know that there's many improvements that we can bank on. And improvement is never linear. Just because Harvey had a big step forward last year and this season before the ankle injury, that doesn't mean he automatically kicks on again next season. Curtis Jones might not improve next season. He might stagnate and then improve the following year. Or he could improve next season, regress the following year, improve again, and then stagnate. Improvement and development are never linear. They don't just follow the same pattern. But decline generally does. And when players start to decline, it's very rare that they arrest that decline. So we've seen Bobby and Mane drop levels. We've seen Henderson this season, how poor he's been. He shouldn't be as bad again next season, but he's not going to be November 2019 to February 2020 Henderson ever again. And I can say that with confidence because the previous time he was that player was 8 years previously, or 6 years previously, in the 13-14 season. That's the last time he played that well for that long of a spell. Other than that, he's never had a run like that. He's not going to have another run like that as he gets older, slower, his legs start to go, they're failing him already, and he's going to pick up more injuries. He's gotten lucky this season, but he's been well managed. But those players who are declining will continue to decline. Those players progressing may not automatically just continue progressing the way that you want. So you do have to freshen things up. And there's a reason that when Liverpool were great in the 70s and 80s, they always went and bought one player a summer. One big player a summer to come in and take a role or threaten a role. And they moved out older players. Like if Bob Paisley was running Liverpool right now, Milner would be gone, Henderson would be gone, Mane would be gone, and Bobby would probably be gone. He didn't keep them around. He let them go and get old and rich somewhere else. He got what he needed from them and moved them on. We did it routinely. And
yeah,
there's a reason for that. And there's a reason Ferguson did it as well. Ferguson was ruthless. Yeah, Ferguson would move players on.
We have to be the same.
We have to be the same.
Just want to make a point. If you're listening to this one and you haven't listened to the previous Old Skool, you really need to listen to that before you listen to this one because it's literally following up on that show. So yeah, please do make sure, because otherwise this one won't make much sense in how where we're buying and why we're buying and which players we think may go or may want to go. So yeah, you need to listen to that first, okay? Right. So that's the right backs. Let's hope, we'll leave the transfer committee to actually pick one. Yeah, otherwise we kind of ruin that show. So let's go to left backs then, in case Costas, like we said, may ask to go if he doesn't get enough football. So who would be a list of left back? Sorry.
So left back is a little bit more difficult than right back on the basis that there aren't as many really good ones on the market. Teams don't tend to produce it because there's right-footed people make up 9/10 of the world or something. So there's only a much smaller pool of left backs, and you rarely get all that many at one go. One that is interesting to me, at least, is one that we tried to buy a few years ago. That would be Jamal Lewis. He's still only 24. He's at Newcastle. He's injured at the minute, but he wasn't registered in the squad for the rest of the season. And even though he's due back before the end of the season, they seem to have made a decision on him. Now, I don't know why they've made that decision, but Eddie Howe appears to have made it. Lewis is a good defender, not a great defender, but a good defender. He lacks a little bit of aggression. Like, when we signed Robbo, he wasn't a good defender. He was an aggressive defender, but he had poor judgment and poor timing. But he had that aggression, and once that was harnessed right, he was fine. Lewis is a better defender now than Robbo was when we signed him, but there are certain things about his game in terms of a lack of aggression that would need to be improved. That is possible. That is something that can be done with coaching. It'll also be done with Virgil van Dijk barking at him beside him. So Jamal Lewis is definitely one that I think is worth consideration, especially if he can be had on the cheap. And we mentioned on the last podcast about the possibility of Newcastle coming in for Gomez. Maybe we could try and get Lewis as a throw-in in some sort of deal there. If Tsimikas was to go for 20 million and we could get Lewis for 8 million, I think that's a deal Liverpool would be happy with. Because when you consider the fact that he was initially the target we wanted when we bought Tsimikas, it was because we couldn't get Jamal Lewis. So he'd be one. The next one I'd look at is another player who's homegrown, 21 years of age, already has 60 first-team appearances under his belt. Actually, it's more than that. It's probably 70-odd. Is Lee Buchanan at Derby County. Just a good all-round fullback. Good athlete, gets forward well, aggressive, good delivery, improving as a defender. I think Lee Buchanan is somebody, especially considering Derby's financial situation, Lee Buchanan is somebody that could be available at a good price. He's having a very good season in the Championship. And before anyone looks at the Championship table and says, well, hang on a second now, Derby are absolutely horrible. Yeah, it's because of the points deduction. Like, take into account Derby have had 21 points taken off them. Derby would actually be sitting in 17th. It's not great, but consider they haven't been able to buy anybody for years. The squad is made up of academy kids and well past their best older players that they've had to pick up off the scrap heap. To be 17th and they would be comfortably clear of relegation is a good achievement. They'd be 18 points clear of the relegation zone, but only 15 points out of the playoff zone. That's not bad. For what they've gone through this year, they've won 11 games, 13 draws, only 15 defeats. In the Championship, that's not a bad return, considering what an absolute death march that division can be. They've got a decent defensive record, not great, but decent, and he's a big part of why it's decent. So Lee Buchanan would be one that I'd look at. I think he's a good player. If we wanted to go for a more high-end prospect, I think Rayan Aït-Nouri at Wolves, again, someone I've highlighted before on the committee pods. I think we've all seen it at Wolves. Yeah. Like, he put Salah in his pocket when Salah was torching the league. He was that good. And it was when he went off that they fell apart. They paid 10 million for him. Now, I think they'd probably want in the region of 30. I would pay it because Aït-Nouri will turn 21 this summer. Andy Robertson, I believe, has just turned 28. Am I right with that? Yeah, 28. Andy Robertson maybe has 3 elite level years left. Aït-Nouri would only be 24 at that point. He could be your Andy Robertson successor. He's good enough and talented enough with enough potential that you could look at Rayan Aït-Nouri and say, that's the next Robbo. That's the guy who'll replace Robbo. He's good going forward. He's very good defensively. He's comfortable as a fullback or a wingback because he's played as a wingback at Wolves. He was a fullback before that. I think Rayan Aït-Nouri is the type of profile that you look at and think, that's not just a short-term signing. Like Lewis, I would say you're buying to flip. Buchanan, you're buying to flip. Aït-Nouri, I think you can buy him with a view of that's the guy that's going to replace Andy Robertson. And I think that kind of mindset from the off will spur Robbo on, for one, will keep Aït-Nouri pacified when he's maybe not playing as much as he wants. But there will be a lot of games. Like we said in the first pod, Costas has played 20 times this season. Now, some of that's because Robbo got injured, obviously, but it hasn't affected us. And maybe that will leak into Klopp's thinking moving forward. Now, it might take a year for Aït-Nouri to fully gain the trust of Klopp, but then after that, there's no reason Klopp couldn't play him 25 times in a 60-game season in year 2. And then the following year, maybe he plays 30 games. And they don't all have to be starts. He could be coming on at 60, at 65, just to give Robbo a rest. If we've got Champions League midweek and a big Premier League game at the weekend, and we're 2 up in the Champions League game, get Robbo off. Or if it's the Sunday before a big Champions League game, get Robbo off, get him rested, and get this kid on and get him some minutes. Ray and Aït-Nouri would be my top left-back target. So those would be the 3. Jamal Lewis, Lee Buchanan, and Ray and Aït-Nouri. I think Aït-Nouri would be top. Buchanan probably second. He's that bit younger. He hasn't had any major injuries yet. I am a little bit concerned about Lewis just with this thigh injury, but I think he's going to be fine. Lewis's level of natural fitness is phenomenal. He's a former national cross-country runner at underage, so wouldn't have any problems there. But maybe it affects his burst, but that's fine. I'd go Aït-Nouri 1, Buchanan 2, and Lewis 3, but Lewis could be the cheapest by quite a bit.
Yeah, I think if Costas goes for some money, then you spend the money on the other one, you know. So that's the thing. If Costas doesn't go, then you're fine. But if he does, then you go for the Wolves player. Personally,
it's good to be prepared. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. I would happily see us sell Nico for 10, 12 million, Nat for 10 to 12 million, and if Costas goes for 20. Then we've got about 44, 45 million in the pot. You go and you spend 10 to 12 million or 14, 15 million on your right back. You get say, Jed Spence. And then you go and lump the rest on your left back. You go and lump the rest on Aït-Nouri. And with Spence, it's very much develop him. And if he gets to a certain level where he becomes too good to be a backup, you sell him on. But Aït-Nouri can be the one that is potentially your long-time starter at left-back.
Yep, exactly. That's what I'd agree with as well. Happy with Costas to stay, obviously, like we both said.
Oh, of course, yeah.
We were just playing with hypotheticals just in case a player comes in and says, look, I want to achieve, and being behind Robbo for 2 years is not going to be good for me. So, okay, that's great. Some really interesting ones there as well. Spence and Nouri would really light up the backups, wouldn't it? Really, bloody hell, would be pretty decent. What about centre back then?
Yeah, so I've got 5 here. Again, you know, you're looking at a certain profile, certain level of aerial mastery, physicality, things like that. Gone for young defenders, so all of these are 23 and under, because I think that's what you want to do. You've got Virgil and Joel as those older defenders. You're looking at someone younger. Now, I've got one who doesn't fit our traditional profile. He's not the tallest. He's only 6'1". He can also play left back, though, so he could give you a little bit of flexibility. And he's probably, if you were going to move to a back 3, he might be the best left side of a back 3 prospect in world football. Is Josko Gvardiol of Red Bull Leipzig. 20-year-old Croatian, just turned 20 in January. Brilliant passer, great ball carrier, can do a bit of everything. Defensively, there's still some lapses, but he's 20, just turned 20. All 20-year-olds have defensive lapses. It doesn't matter who they are. Maldini had defensive lapses at 20. But this guy is a really special prospect. Now, he might not fit the profile just because of his lack of height and aerial dominance, but as a footballer, he's a really interesting one to look at. And he's left-footed, and it's always nice to have, the odd left-footer floating around. I've got 4 that do fit our more traditional profile. Edmund Tapsoba of Bayer Leverkusen is one, again, that's been brought up on the committee pods a couple of times. He's been at Leverkusen now since 2020. I think he's a big-time prospect. He was on our list as a club. If we couldn't have gotten Kanate, he was one that they were looking at. He is contracted till 2026.
He's a big LFC fan as well.
Gvardiol, outstanding. That even makes it even better. But I mean, he could be, because we don't know what's going to happen post-Klopp. We don't know that we won't get a back 3 manager post-Klopp. So maybe someone like Gvardiol is a bit of future-proofing. Tapsoba's one I like. He's plateaued a little bit this season, I think. But that's in part because of more competition for places there, a little bit more rotation from the manager, and also a more attacking mindset. But dominant in the air, aggressive player, good on the ball. I think Tapsoba's one to really keep an eye on. Now, the one negative might be that he is another AFCON player, so you do run the risk of losing him. But if he's your 4th centre-back, are you really all that worried about it? He is represented by the same agent as Rafinha, Deco. So Rafinha's going to come up later in this conversation. So just one to keep in mind there. Next up, Maxence Lacroix of Wolfsburg. I've always liked this kid since he was at Sochaux. Been really good for Wolfsburg. Key player in their push for top 4 last season. Goes a little bit under the radar because France obviously have so many high-level young centre-backs, but I think he's up there with the best of them. He's close friends with Ibu. They were at Sochaux together for a couple of years. So there's a bit of a connection there. Might be something that we could tap into. I like how he plays. I just like how front-footed he is. I like how good he is in the air. And he's comfortable on the ball, which is something I like. He's also very, very quick. Like Ibu levels of quick. So that's something I like. Loic Bade is another young French centre-back currently at Rennes, having moved from Lens. The one thing I'd wonder, though, is he better off maybe staying at Rennes for a couple of years? He's had 3 clubs in 3 seasons. He was at Le Havre, Lens bought him, and now he went on to Rennes. So maybe he just needs to settle somewhere, but he's got a big, big upside. Very good potential, good in the air, good on the ball, very, very calm. Reminds me a little bit of Saliba, the Arsenal centre-back, who's out on loan at Marseille. Not quite as good on the ball as him, but maybe better defensively. And the last one then is one where we'd be looking to take advantage of a situation. So as everybody's aware, Barcelona have serious financial problems, like serious financial problems. And they're currently struggling to get Ronald Arroyo signed to a new deal. 23-year-old, just turned 23, Uruguayan international, super aggressive, great in the air, good on the ball, very quick, very comfortable, can play right back. You wouldn't want him at right back, but he will go there and do a job. So in terms of replacing Gomez in that, kind of centre-back who can play full-back, he fits that mould as well. But Arroyo is one that potentially is available at a bargain price if Barcelona can't get that contract sorted. They've made him a couple of offers. They've been turned down. Rumours are he's had a number of offers, including one from us. Whether there's any truth to it, who knows? It could just be his agent playing silly beggars, but definitely one that I like and one that I'd be on board with signing. I think he probably profiles better as a partner for Virgil than, Virgil backup or replacement. But at such a young age, these things are fluid and he can be developed in whatever way we want. So those would be the 5. AJ has asked if I would rate any of them higher than Ibu. No, I wouldn't. I would say Gvardiol as a footballer has the... Gvardiol reminds me of Danny Agger. Like a slightly smaller version of Danny Agger. He's like 6'1", Agger was 6'3", 6'4". But that same sort of fluid grace to his game. Everything looks easy. Good pass for the ball. Comfortable carrying the ball out of defence. From a stylistic point of view, he's probably the closest one to Gomez.
And also, it's probably good with being so young. Someone coming in now to come and partner with the, or play with VVD, or at least be in the same training, sessions with VVD. Is going to learn a heck of a lot, aren't they? At the end of the day,
exactly. And again, you can look at this player that you'd bring in as someone that, like with someone like Spence, that you're going to develop and sell on in 2 or 3 years. And one thing we know as a fact, high-level central defenders are one of the rarest commodities in football, and they command a premium price. And we are very good at improving central defenders at our club. And everybody looks better playing with Virgil van Dijk. Everybody. He made Lovren, who's one of the worst defenders in the league, look almost competent when they played together. He has elevated Matip from who's better, Matip or Lovren conversations to is Matip as good as Van Dijk conversations. That's the impact of Virgil. We've seen it on Ibu. We saw it on Joe. Put him with any one of these and it's the same thing. The thing I would say about Virg, though, is like we're looking at Thiago Silva at 37, still being a decent centre-back. He's not in the discussion as the best in the league or the best in the world, the way some people want to put him. As a defender. As a footballer, he's a very good passer. He reads the game well, whatever. As a defender, the holes are there and everybody can see them if they want to look for them. But Virgil is a better defender than Thiago Silva ever was. He's also 6'4", whereas Thiago Silva is 6 foot flat. He's a much better athlete than Thiago Silva ever was. Are we sure Virgil can play at an elite level till 36, 37? Are we sure that he can't? Because I think he can.
Mate, Hansen went long, Hyypiä went long. I'm sorry, they can.
And Hyypiä was never the athlete that Virgil is. Hansen was much smaller than Virgil is. Tony Adams played well into his 30s and was excellent for Arsenal right till the very end. And he wasn't a patch on Virgil as an athlete. And Virgil's intelligence is just off the charts.
That's what it's all about. It's going to be, if the way they're managing this high line at the moment, right? It's all Virg, really, right? Trying to make sure that line there's got to be someone who's leading at the back, right? And managing it. And if you watch, you get little nuggets from some of those adverts I talked about in the last pod, those advertising pods. I mean, not pods, shorts that they do with LFC TV. Like when Robbo was keeping someone onside, or at least trying to. He goes, look at that line. Look at that line apart from Robbo. Look at that line. What are you doing, Robbo? Just those things. It takes pride. Takes absolute pride in that line. That's what you want. You want your leader at the back to say, fucking sort it out. I can imagine him going back into the dressing room and saying to one of them, if they played someone else, what the fuck were you doing? You know this is the line. Stay in line. Follow me. Wherever I am, stay in fucking line. I'll decide if we drop or not.
But the other thing to consider as well is, as Virgil gets older and maybe loses half a yard of pace, Ibu's going to be the guy next to him. That guy's just as quick as Virgil. He might not look as quick because he doesn't move quite as gracefully because no one does. But Ibu is lightning fast. Like, when Mikel Antonio knocked the ball past him against West Ham, and it was Jim Beglin was on the commentary I was watching. Jim Beglin tried to make out that Ibu struggled to stay ahead. When Antonio played the ball, he was probably 5 yards from Ibu. Ibu had to turn and get running when Antonio was already sprinting. And Ibu beat him to the ball by a full 5 yards without really looking like he was ever trying.
Yep, that's the bit that wasn't very good analysis or punditry, really.
Nothing's good analysis when it's Jim Beglin. The man is a buffoon.
I mean, at the end of the day, they don't even take into account the turn. That's the biggest part.
That's it.
The start is the slowest bit, mate.
Yeah.
You've got to get into a rhythm. A horse doesn't just start galloping full pelt.
That's exactly it. And at no point did Antonio look like he was going to even catch Konate, let alone go past him. But yet Jim Beglin wanted to make out that Konate was struggling. Konate is really quick. And as he gets used to playing with Virgil more and more over the next 2 years, as Virgil starts to have things where he needs to alter his game, well, that's where Konate comes in. That's where that high-level speed of his comes in. He's now the one that can do a lot of the covering defending. It was probably the plan with Joe before Joe had so many injuries, because Joe is incredibly quick. But I think that's what Konate does. And I don't see any reason that Virgil can't play at a really high level for another 6-7 years. I don't see a single reason. So you could look at any of these centre-backs, a Lacroix, whatever, and you say, right, the plan there is we bring them in, we develop them, we sell them on, and we just go and find another one of them, and we do the same thing, and it's rinse and repeat. But you can also factor in Joel Matip is 31 this year, I think. So he doesn't look to me like he'll age as well as Virgil. Joel might, in 2 years, be the type of player we're looking to get rid of. Well, then, all of a sudden, that fourth centre-back steps up to being third centre-back. And then they're going to get more games. Then they're in the rotation. They're playing much more often. And that can keep them happier. And then you go and you buy your fourth centre-back at that point. So those would be the 5 I'd go for. And I would genuinely be very, very happy with any of them. Gvardiol is one that he really interests me, but he's probably not the profile that we want.
Yeah, might not be. But there's some interesting names there. So let's go to we've done the defence. Let's go to midfield, where there's a little bit of a choo-choo train that we all need to jump on, I think.
Yeah, so he's the top one on my midfield list. Aurélien Tchouameni is absolutely sensational. He's 22 and he can be anything you want. If you want him to be the next Patrick Vieira as a box-to-box, unstoppable destroyer, he could be that player. If you want him to be the next Fabinho as a shielding central defensive midfielder who's the hub that the ball goes through, he can be that. He's got outstanding passing range. His vision is great. He can carry the ball. He wins the ball back without really breaking sweat. He's got great press resistance. He can pop up with a goal. He scored for France last night. He's got 3 from Monaco this year, 3 last year. It doesn't sound like a lot, but at 22, it's pretty decent. He strikes me as a natural leader. He's one who's not afraid to bollock a more senior teammate who he feels is not pulling the weight. Last night, I don't know if anyone watched that game. If you haven't watched it, there's a clip going round of...
Yeah, he was great, wasn't he?
Of Tchouameni, right? It is, it's brilliant. But if you have the time, watch the game. At one point in the first half, Pogba doesn't track a runner, and Tchouameni just obliterates him. Absolutely obliterates him. Paul Pogba is a senior pro in that national team, a World Cup winner. We all know his flaws, but with the French team, he's held in the highest of regard. Tchouameni didn't care. Just let him know you're not doing what you're meant to do. He had Kingsley Coman playing as a wing-back next to him, and he made Kingsley Coman look like prime Cafu defensively, because he was covering for him and helping him out and talking him through and letting him know when he needed to drop. This is a 22-year-old who's got, how many caps does he have? 6? 8. 8 caps. And he's talking senior pros who are Champions League winners World Cup winners. He's talking to them like he's not only on their level, but he's the leader of the team. Like, that's the type of natural persona he has. He would absolutely top my list, and I would genuinely pay whatever it takes to get him. I see people talk about Declan Rice for 150 million. And obviously that's ridiculous. But I wonder, like, if that's the type of price he's going for, what would Tchouaméni go for if he was English? Because he is better than Declan Rice everywhere. Better passer. Rice might be a slightly better ball progressor as a carrier, but Tchouaméni doesn't do it all that often because he doesn't need to. So Rice might be a bit better because he's worked on it a bit more, but Tchouaméni, when he carries the ball, is impossible to knock off it. Better passer, much better defensively, much better positional sense, reads the game better, covers better for others, can be your 6, can be an 8, can play either role in a 2, can be the one that sits and dictates or the one that goes here, there and everywhere and wins the ball back. He's more tactically flexible than Declan Rice. And I get what Old King Cole is saying, 150 million is just West Ham's indirect way of telling everybody to fuck off. But remember, they have a situation with Declan Rice where he has made it known that he is very ambitious and that he wants to win major honours. And at some point, because his contract is up in 2 years, and he rejected a new contract in the summer. What if he gets the hump and he's like, well, hang on, I've fulfilled my part of this. Why are you now blocking me from a move? And all of a sudden you've got a very unhappy Declan Rice on your hands. And you get to next summer and maybe he does turn around and go, you know what? I'm going to do Steve McManaman here. Now, he won't call it that, but that's what we call it. I'll play out the last year of my contract. And then in 2024, when I'm 25 years of age,
yeah, fine, entering
my peak, I'm walking for free. And West Ham get nothing.
Yeah, there's
so West Ham are playing a very dangerous game here.
It will never happen though for 150. You know that.
No, but that's the thing. No one's going to pay it. But that's the point, Gags. West Ham don't want anyone to pay it.
They don't want anyone to pay it, but they'll come down. That's always
they will. But if they're asking for 150, that means their come down price is probably 100. Declan Rice is a 50 million pound footballer.
But there's always someone stupid like United to pay it. That's the thing.
But who else is there other than United? Who else is there? Because Chelsea are off the market now.
Yeah.
The market is only what the market dictates. And if there's only one club bidding now, admittedly, it is the most stupid club in Europe who outbid themselves on Harry Maguire. I don't think he'd go to Newcastle because Newcastle are years away from competing. He doesn't fit at City. They've also got Rodri, who's just a better player. And he's not playing as an 8 in a Pep Guardiola team. So I don't think City are in. It's United. It's one club. And he's already made it known he'd prefer to go to Chelsea. So it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if in 2024 he goes to Chelsea on a free.
Or Newcastle, mate. They might pay.
I don't think he'll go to Newcastle. Are years away from... Gags, for the next 3 years, West Ham will be better than Newcastle. Unless they do something really stupid.
They will, mate. Yeah, they will.
Newcastle can't. Have you not seen what the new rules are going to be?
Mate.
The new rules hammer Newcastle.
Yeah, sports washing though, man.
But sports washing won't work under the new rules. You can only send...
Yeah, they'll have sponsors coming out of nowhere. Watch now.
And every one of them is going to get micro-analysed.
Cities haven't even been half of them.
But that's why Newcastle's are going to be. Because City are so blatantly cheating. Like, mate, they're not even pretending anymore. I will guarantee you, here and now, we're not going to hear that Newcastle are going to grow their revenue from 160 million or whatever it is this year to 600 million in 2 years. It's not happening.
City doubled it in 2-3 years?
City doubled it under the old rules, not the new rules. The new rules were brought in because of Newcastle. The rule where every sponsorship deal over a certain amount has to go through Premier League approval was only brought in for Newcastle.
Premier League approved the Saudis. So this
Premier League approved the Saudis.
I don't believe anything.
The Premier League approved the Saudis because Boris Johnson made them approve the Saudis. Boris Johnson is responsible for the Saudis owning Newcastle.
Anything that comes into play, rules-wise.
Newcastle are not going to sign Declan Rice.
FFP
Newcastle are going to be shit for 3 years.
I don't care about Declan. They'll be signing players massively. They'll be going crazy. Nothing will stop them.
I will guarantee they spend less than 100 million this summer.
Nothing will. That's fine. Nothing will stop them over the next 2-3 years. Watch. They're going to be crazy.
Are they though? Says who? Says who?
Just the way it works. It's sports washing.
Says who?
What's going to happen?
The only people suggesting Newcastle are going to spend that type of money are Newcastle fans and rival fans. No journalist has reported that. Amanda Staveley hasn't said that. There's no guarantee that the Saudi investment fund is going to do what City have done. None at all. There's only speculation that that's what they're going to do. There's no basis for the logic other than, oh, well, City have already done it. That's everybody's argument. Well, City did it. But it's not the same thing. City's a plaything for one man. Newcastle isn't.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. 2-3 years down the line, they'll be in much better shape, and they'll be charging towards the top four. Watch.
They'll be in much better shape, and they'll be a Europa League team.
Yeah, exactly. Charging towards the top four.
That
means they'll start to
be a Europa League team.
They'll start to be able to pay more. They'll be getting more money from the Premier League by then because they're going up the places. They'll be in Europa League, be able to get money from there. They'll get better sponsorships. Watch, it'll just all
they'll be a Europa League team.
Fall into place, and then they'll start getting big players.
They'll be a Europa League team. In 3-4 years, by 2024, they'll be sitting 8th. They're like, look at them. Look how far away from being even decent they are. They need an entire new squad. That's not going to happen in short order.
First.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
People need to settle down in Newcastle.
Yeah,
Newcastle are bottom half team for the next year or two.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years, 2025, easily they'll be.
Yeah, 2025 they'll be a Europa League team.
Yeah, so 2026 then Champions League team, yeah?
No. In a league with a better Arsenal team, a better Spurs team, a better Chelsea team, and United, and us, and City? No.
It's going to be very...
It's not just as easy. What you're ignoring here is that when City started to do what City have done, we were shit. Ferguson left United, and United fell apart. Wenger was on the outs.
It might take years for that to happen for United as well. United, there's no guarantee.
But they're still better set up. But United are still better set up to do it quicker than Newcastle.
And will we still be good post Klopp?
Yes, because our structure will be there. Because we're brilliantly run.
Okay.
The same reason Arsenal are going to be good from now on because they're putting in place a structure. The same thing at Spurs. City had no competition in the league.
See, when you said Spurs,
there was one good team.
The whole conversation.
There was one good team in the league when City became good. One. United. Right at the end of Ferguson's reign. The weakest era in the Premier League is the last couple of years of Ferguson through to probably 2016.
Yeah, we do.
City's first title, United's last title, City's second title, the Mourinho Chelsea title, and the Leicester City title. Look at those 5 seasons of the Premier League. And it's absolute piss. And that's what allowed City to develop.
We should do another pod on this.
The next one that I'd have is Federico Valverde of Real Madrid. He's likely only a possibility if Tchouaméni goes to Real. He might become the odd one out there. He'll be 24 this summer, so he's a good age to make the move. Very good box-to-box. Can play as an 8 or a 6. Can play in a 2 or a 3. Can also do a job at right-back if you need him to, but, you know, we've already addressed the right-back situation. Valverde is a top-end player, a real top-end player. He's starting for basically any other club in Europe right now, but he's at Real Madrid where Toni Kroos and Luka Modric are in his way. There's no real flaw in his game. He doesn't score enough goals. It'd be the only thing I'd put against him, but I'm not going to knock him too hard for that. Hugely energetic, a pressing machine. He's definitely one to look at. He could be expensive, but I think he's probably worth going big on. If you want to go big on a midfielder and you can't get Tchouaméni, I'd probably go Valverde next, and then Phillips if you wanted to go for an Englishman. And just the other one, just to throw in, because he's been linked, is Gavi, the young Spaniard. He's only 17. He turns 18 in August.
That's interesting, right?
And it's the same sort of situation as Arreo. They can't agree a contract with him. He wants similar enough, I think, to what Pedri and Ansu Fati got, and he warrants it. At 17, he's got 4 Spanish caps. He's a different type of midfielder to the 3 I've mentioned. He is a physical midfielder. He reminds me a little bit of Nicolo Barella, the Inter Milan and Italy midfielder. High technical level, and then just like a real bustly kind of energetic player. Good physicality to his game, even though he is quite small. I don't think he'll be allowed to leave Barca. I think they will, in the end, move heaven and earth to keep him. But you'd never know. You just never know. It might be one to keep an eye on. But he'd be an outside shot. The other 3 would be the 3 I'd look at to fill the need we have, which is for a number 8 who can also cover the number 6 position at a high level. Basically replacing Henderson in the starting 11. I think Tchouaméni 1, Valverde 2. Valverde, stylistically, probably the closest to Henderson, but a better player and better in all areas. And then Phillips. And Phillips is also the oldest of the 3 as the 3rd option. He hasn't played as that box-to-box midfielder in a few years for Leeds, but he does for England. That's the role he plays for England, where he is obviously first choice at the minute. I'm not going to mention, well, I am going to mention him because I'm going to say his name, but I don't think Jude Bellingham leaves this summer.
No.
I think he stays till 2023. With Haaland going, I don't think Dortmund will sell both of them.
Could they really? It would be too much.
I think the fans might lose their minds if they do, because
they've done it before, right? Like, as in, they lose a lot of players. They do.
They do. Yeah.
So I suppose the fans are kind of used to it. But yeah, you're losing your 2 stars of the current era would be harsh on them. So maybe the club have that in mind, and you're right. They'll get a big, wad from Haaland, won't they, at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's it. They're going to get a big wad from Haaland, and then the thing is, like, Bellingham is 19 this summer. He's only going to increase in value.
Loads of time.
So you might as well hold on. And AJ, yes, I would still take Saul without question. I just haven't included him in this list.
Okay. Last 10 minutes or so, forwards then, my friend.
Yeah, so
I suppose we're looking at left and right?
I've done this based on... So one thing before we move on to that, we talked about maybe a second midfielder, and I said maybe a second midfielder who can also play in attack. I think that's Fabio Carvalho.
Yeah.
I think he fits that role. I think that's probably what we've targeted him for.
We've kind of already accepted that's happening, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, David Lynch seems very confident that it'll happen. Joyce seems confident that it'll happen. So yeah, I think that one gets done. I've sort of looked at players here. I've gone under the assumption that Salah stays, and we're looking to replace Mane. That's basically what I've done. I put together a 3-player list, and I mentioned 2 of them earlier on. One of them, I think, is sort of when I said Salah. I said Diaz was part Mane, part Suarez. I think this guy is part Mane, part Bobby, and that's Christopher Nkunku. Can play anywhere, basically. Could be an 8, could play as a winger, can play as a 10, can play as an inside forward. And this season he's played quite a bit as a central forward, as a kind of false 9. Goal scoring has gone up substantially this year. He's got 26 goals in 39 games. And that doesn't even come close to telling the story of him and what a good player he is and what type of player he is, because he is, first and foremost, a creative player. Like, he wants to bring others into the game and get them involved. He's 15 assists this season. Incredible dribbler. Hard worker, good presser. Obviously been at Leipzig. You're not going to get through time at Leipzig without learning to press. Super intelligent. He would probably be my first choice to replace Sadio. And I think the cost... He might cost a little bit more than you get for Sadio, but his wages would be significantly less than what Sadio is currently on. So it would balance out. Second one will be João Felix. Again, I mentioned him earlier on. 22. He would take some adaptation into that central role because it's not really a role he's played frequently before as a false nine type. He's more of a...
Though, isn't he?
Oh, he's so good.
That United game, there was some flashes of brilliance, weren't there? In there,
even against us, there was a couple of little moments. Like when he spun Naby, for their second goal. He's so talented. Like, I love Diego Simeone. Like, I'm the biggest fan of Diego Simeone, and I can't think of a worse manager for João Felix than Diego Simeone because he's the antithesis.
As well, though, Dave?
He does work really hard. Like, he wouldn't play at all under Simeone if he didn't work.
True.
But
Good point.
It's just... I don't know. Like, Simeone wants kind of an automated attack where everything is pre-designed. And João wants to play as it comes to him. Very similar to Bobby. Like, literally get the ball... And now I'm going to do something mental. You don't know what it is because I don't know what it is. But because I don't know what it is, you haven't a clue. Now let's see what happens. João is one of those... 20 years ago, he'd have been deemed almost a maverick. He doesn't have that kind of outlandish personality of like a Cantona or whoever. But on the field, he can just be, at times, a little bit by the seat of his arse. Now, Klopp can coach some of that out of him, but you don't want to take too much. You want to leave just enough of it so you still get the stuff we get from Bobby. He needs to get a little bit stronger. He is 5'11", though, and he's got a decent frame, so it can happen. He's so gifted. So gifted. I don't know what's he got left. He has 4 years left on his contract, so he could be expensive.
Yeah, it's probably not likely.
Yeah.
What's the options down the right?
Well, Rafinha would be the main one that I would look at. Now,
that Anthony fella?
He's too young. He's too inconsistent. He's got 8 goals in the Eredivisie this season.
Yeah, not good, is it?
Like, if you're telling me, if you're asking me who would we bring in purely as a backup to Mo, Anthony would be ideal. As a backup to Mo, I can get on board with him. This idea that we sell Mo and Anthony's the primary replacement on the right wing is just mind-blowing to me. Like, you can watch 10 Ajax games, and in 4 of them, you won't even know he's playing. He'll just drift through entire games.
That's not good.
He's super talented, and when he's on, he is exceptionally good. And he's a lot of fun to watch. But there's just games. Now, maybe it's because he thinks the Eredivisie is too easy for him. But if that were the case, I'd like to be seeing him going and scoring 25 a season. Like, I look at Cody Gakpo at PSV, and I see what he's doing. And I look back at Anthony and I think, well, hang on a sec. How's he doing that and you're doing that? And you're better than him and have better teammates than him. Or you're more talented than him and have better teammates than him. Like, if I was looking at one from the Eredivisie to come in and replace, not replace Salah, but be a kind of backup to Salah, I'd probably look at Noni Mudieke, who's the young English left-footed right winger type at PSV Eindhoven. I'd look at him before I'd look at Anthony. 9 goals, 5 assists this season. He's only just turned 20, so he has the homegrown thing as well once he hits 21 because he was at the Spurs Academy for years. He's super gifted. But when I watch him, I see a guy always wanting to be involved. Like, you'll often watch Ajax and Anthony will just stand out on the right wing. And I mean stand on the right wing. Not make runs into the box, not demand the ball, just stand about. And that would concern me a little bit.
Yeah, Mo never stands about.
No, that's the thing. And that's the one thing I love about Diaz. Diaz is always on the move. Sadio was always on the move.
He's not been mentioned, actually. It's been that other guy that you just mentioned at PSV that's been mentioned.
Cody Gakpo, yeah.
Yeah, Gakpo. So that's interesting. You said Rafinha as well, did you?
Rafinha I would look at. Now, I've said this before. If we sell Mo, we can't replace him with one player. One player does not replace what Mo Salah brings you. But as I've also said, I'd be selling Sadio anyway. So you're then looking to bring in two. So if Mo were to go and Sadio was to go, I think what I would like to see us do is a little bit of a reconfiguration where our primary goal scorer is maybe the fella through the middle, and we bring in a right winger who's more of a creative source. So the right winger kind of replaces Mane, and the centre forward replaces Mo in terms of goals and assists and whatever else. So I KO99, he could well just be Ryan Babel 2.0. He really could well just be Ryan. That's a really good comp, because I do have concerns about the application and the attitude. Like, remember, David Neres was there before him, and he was sensationally talented. He's now playing for Shakhtar Donetsk.
That's crazy.
And his own teammates used to laugh on his Instagram about how much weed he smoked.
Oh, shit.
So I do have concerns about certain types of players. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe Anthony is just bored and can go on and do better. Maybe he thrives on better competition. But if that's the case, go and obliterate the Eredivisie.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on a run where you get 8 goals and 6 assists in like 10 to 12 games.
That drive
and you're man of the match most weeks, and just tear the place apart.
Hunger and drive is one of the major things for this recruitment.
100%.
Who's the other? There's another Leipzig player, is there?
No, so if I would say if it's just Mane that goes, Nkunku or Zhao would be the target for me.
Okay.
If Mo and Mane go, now some people will think this is a big downgrade, and in the short term, it is, but you're looking at long-term picture here, and we're also improving the midfield with Tchouaméni. I would look at Rafinha to bring in on the right wing, and I would look at Darwin Núñez as an out-and-out number 9.
Well, we're about to watch him, aren't we, soon? So we'll see. What we think.
I think Darwin Núñez as an out-and-out 9 would be spectacular with Rafinha and Diaz either side. Now, there is one other thing I would suggest would be to move the shape and go 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, when you get Choo in, that's possible.
So you put Tchouaméni, Fabinho, Naby, Thiago and Henderson as a 5-man group for central midfield. That's perfect. You get Rafinha and Harvey Elliott as your right wingers.
Yep.
You get Diaz and, say, Fabio Carvalho as your left wingers. You buy in Nkunku and you play him as your 10, and you have Bobby and Curtis Jones and Carvalho and Taki and Harvey that can all fill in there. Mm-hmm. And then you go and you buy Darwin Núñez, and you've got Darwin Núñez and Jota up front. And Jota can obviously play left wing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're then getting rid of 2 attackers and bringing in 3. Rafinha, Nkunku,
and you can
with
the money you have. Exactly.
Of course you could, yeah, because you'd get 120-ish for Mo, 50 to 60 for Sadio, is about 180, and I think 180 definitely gets those 3. So your only outlay, like if we only bring in, say, a right back and Costas and Joe stay, then your only outlay there is a right back in, say, Jed Spence for 15 million. The sales of Nat and Nico more than cover that. You're selling Ox in midfield. You maybe get 20 million for him. So you've got, say, 10 million left over from the defensive sales, plus the money for Ox, and maybe about 10 million left over in attack, probably somewhere in the region of 40 million. Tchouaméni might cost you 50, 55. So your net spend on the summer is about 15 million. You've brought your wage bill substantially down. You've brought your average age substantially down. And now you've set the team up to be not just good, but great for the next 5-6 years, amazing. Which includes the post-Klopp era.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
Now, again, I would rather keep Mo, but we have to be realistic that it is a possibility that he goes, in which case, replace Sadio with Nkunku, replace Salah with Rafinha and Darwin Núñez, and shift the shape of the team. Because, let's be real, the majority of our players suit a two-man midfield better than a three-man midfield. The only ones it suits are Henderson and Milner, one of whom should leave this summer and one of whom should play far less next year. Mm-hmm. So, what harm is it? And Henderson can do a job in it too. It'll be all right.
Yeah. Okay.
But can I just make one more point, right? One more point. The post-Klopp thing, right? You asked it earlier. Everybody talks about it. We're apparently screwed when Klopp leaves, right? That's the preeminent thought, is that we are screwed when Jurgen leaves in 2024.
There's always a fear, Dave. There's always a fear when
there is, and rightly so. And rightly so. Because he's one of the best managers in the world, and he has done an amazing job at this club. But I think that is very disrespectful to him. When he left Dortmund, did they fall apart? Or were they better the next 2 seasons than they were in his last season?
Yeah, they were good. They were good, yeah, very good.
They were good, right?
Good. Yeah.
Why were they good? Because he left behind a good squad. He left behind a great environment and a great culture. He left behind a well-run club. Not the club he found, a different club. When he leaves Liverpool, he's going to leave behind a great structure that he's had his hands on crafting, from the analytics side of things, to the recruitment side of things, to the sports science side, the nutrition, everything, the academy. He has moulded this. Is Alisson leaving? Is Fab? Is Virgil?
No,
is Trent?
No. There's no risk of players going. It's
That's
only
what I mean.
The ones that are in the contract now.
That's what I mean. So all of these players are going to be there when he leaves.
Yeah.
Are we going to suggest that he's leaving behind a crap team?
No.
No, he's leaving behind. Jurgen Klopp will walk into Liverpool and he will leave behind a great team, a great club, a great structure, and everything in place for the next manager, who's not going to be Steven Gerrard, who's not going to be Pep and Linders. It's going to be someone who's a really good manager to come in and have the same type of success. Stop getting so worked up about Klopp leaving. If it happens, it'll be shit, but we are not going to fall apart. This is not the club he inherited. This is the club he has built. This is the club he has inherited. Everybody thought we'd fall apart many, many years ago when Shankly left, and look what happened. He left behind the structure, the makings of a great club, and Bob Paisley walked in and took it to the next level. I'm not saying the next guy is going to do what Paisley did, but they're certainly not going to do what Souness did after Kenny. That's all I'm going to say. You need to go, so we'll wrap it up at that.
Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate that. Thank you all for listening as well, live and all the chat. Really good. Another brilliant pod. And we will be back very soon. I don't know when the next Old Skool will be, but we'll try and fit one if we can, especially if something big happens or there's very exciting stuff. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of exciting stuff going on. But yeah, make sure you catch all the rest of the content, and make sure you join us in Discord, AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. Catch you all very soon. Up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.